Hello everybody from Plant Reviews, today 26th of February, so we are still in the middle of winter, but well, spring is rapidly approaching and I'll talk today about one of the most beautiful flowers that bloom in winter in my garden, and this one is the Helleborus Spring Promise Conny. The Hellebore, the plants of the genus Helleborus, that are commonly known obviously as Hellebores, are a group of plants in the buttercup family Ranunculaceae and in the tribe Hellebore. There's about 20 species that belong to the genus Helleborus. Other common names of Hellebores are winter rose, Christmas rose, and Lenten Rose, in reference to the blooming period, even if they are not really closely related to roses. Many Hellebores are poisonous, so this is something that you really need to take into account if you have kids or pets that might end up eating parts of these gorgeous plants, to protect both the kids and the pets, and also your beautiful Hellebores. The scientific name Helleborus was given by Carl Linnaeus in 1753, and it comes from the ancient Greek word Helleborus. There was a common name for one of the species of this genus, that is Helleborus orientalis, and the name is constructed from a lane that is a verb that means to injure, and bora that means food. The genus is native to Europe and Asia, and these plants, however, have been basically spread worldwide in thanks to the obviously gardening activity of people, because they are really beautiful plants to keep in the garden. The flowers have 5 petal-like structures that are actually the sepals of the plant. The actual petals, they are structures that are cup-like and are basically transformed in nectaries. So these are actual structures that are modified to hold nectar in the plant. So I can show you here this green part that are below the stamens are actually the nectaries of the plant. I'm sorry for the noise. Obviously dogs are conversating, so they are barking, and I hope that you'll be able to hear me in the video anyway. The sepals do not fall as petals normally do in most plants, but usually they stay for several months on the plant after the true blooming of this plant. It seems that the persistence of the sepals contributes to the development of the seeds. These plants thrive in shade or partial shade. Indeed, you can see that I have the Hellebore together with other shade-loving plants, including my skimmias and some pulmonaria as well, and cyclamens too in this side of the garden, as well as obviously my beautiful and very fragrant sarcococca. These Hellebores, as I said, are widely used as garden plants, and they are actually very resistant in cold climates, thanks obviously to their origin obviously, because they are native to temperate and cold climates in Europe and Asia, and it seems that the area with most species and is the Balkanic area. They indeed are hardy to climate zones, USDA zones 5 to 8, so they are really hardy throughout the UK. And This is one of the features that made Hellebores so beloved as garden plants. The fact that they are cold hardy, so very good for obviously gardens in temperate and cold climates, as well as the fact that they bloom between winter and early spring. So it's in a season that when there are not many plants blooming around, and also they thrive in shade and partial shade, so they don't really need full sun. And also most of them are evergreen. Some of them are semi-evergreen, but most of them are evergreen. And this, in particular, my Helleborus Spring Promise Conny, it's evergreen in my garden. There are several species of and varieties of Hellebores, really hundreds of hybrids, and these varieties usually, you can see, have drooping flowers. They are kind of pendant. So unfortunately, most of the times you can't really see the beautiful flowers just walking in the garden, but actually you have to hold it, and you need basically to lift it up. But sometimes when the flowers develop, if you have other plants around, like these skimmias, they they might end up facing upwards just because the flowers develop in between other plants. For example, in this case, probably the wind moved the plants, so the skimmia ended up below this flower. So, and actually, well, I'll put it in this way so you can actually see this beautiful flower facing upwards, even if, as I said, usually the Hellebores have pendant flowers. So that's probably the only feature I don't like very much of the Hellebores, because usually if you are walking through a garden, it's nice to see the flowers facing you. Instead, due to the fact that this plant have drooping flowers, like some daffodils as well, you can't really appreciate the true beauty of the plant just walking in a garden. However, it's nice to see this even from the top of the flower. You can actually be very curious about what is going on, and then you lift the flower upwards and you see this beauty. Really nice. As I said, there's several species, and some of them are pretty common in the gardens. For example, there's a species called the Christmas rose, whose scientific name is Helleborus niger, and blooms usually between December and January. With white flowers. Then there is another one, the stinking Hellebore, Helleborus foetidus, that has small green flowers that contrast pretty well against the dark foliage. However, the most common in gardening is Helleborus orientalis, as well as its hybrids and varieties called Lent Rose, because usually blooms in the Lent period, so between midwinter and early spring. Hellebores are mostly available in colors such as white, pink, purple, or very dark purple, and with the aging the flowers become greener. The inner surface of the petals can be dotted, as in this case, or blotched. Also, while wild species have single flowers, gardeners have selected several varieties that are semi-double or even double. It's actually peculiar that in double varieties the petals actually reverted from being nectaries to again being true petals, and in semi-double or double flowers, as well as also some anemone varieties, the inner petals might be of different colors from the outer petals. As already said, these plants, the Hellebores, are toxic and are also distasteful to many animals, so they are deer resistant and rabbit resistant. And I didn't have any problems with slug cedar. The only thing is that, obviously, in case of snowfalls like we had 2 weeks ago, the leaves might get a bit damaged by the cold. You can see some burrs, but these are really resistant plants, and they will not the fact that obviously is a bit this problems make the foliage look a little bit ugly. Really, it doesn't affect the overall health of the plants. They are still very easy and very resistant plants to keep in the garden. Some people actually have problems with this plant, even just handling them. So if you have very sensitive skin, it would be actually recommended to wear gloves when you handle these plants. The poisoning have different symptoms, and is usually it usually happens after ingestion of the plant, with hypersalivation, vomiting, and cramps, sometimes diarrhea, and large quantities can be fatal. However, you really need to eat large quantities of Hellebores. Really, they are really tasteful, and I am well, I never tried them, but according to the information I got, you really have to eat a lot of these plants to get a fatal poisoning. About the growth habit, these plants are clump forming, as I said, usually are evergreen. The plants are perennial, so I've been keeping this plant for about 3 years in my garden, and it is blooming beautifully and growing very well. The Spring Promise Conny, that is the variety I have, is a plant that is about 1 meter, well, can be 50 centimeters to 1 meter tall, but really about 40 to 60 centimeters in general. And this plant have palmate leaves. As you can see, the foliage is actually really beautiful. If we didn't have the snowfall, would be amazing, this plant already, for the very nice foliage, as you can see. And the margins of the foliage are actually so-like, and in summer, when they dry up a bit, can be actually very unpleasant if your legs, if you're walking in shorts, go nearby the plants, because they can actually be a little bit painful if the skin touch the leaves when are a little bit dry in summer. The plants, as most of the Hellebores, actually all the Hellebores I have found information on the internet, is hardy from zone 5, some USDA zone 5 to 8, and about the blooms. The blooms, you can see, are white on the outer side, and you can actually see some dots already on the outer side with a green base. On the inner side, the flowers are pure white with these beautiful dots of dark red, I would say maroon, against which the green stigmas and stamens have a very nice contrast, as well as the green nectaries that are the actual petals, while the sepals, as I said, are these 5 structures that resemble petals and are pure white with maroon dark red dots. It is really one of the most beautiful flowers I have in the garden. It's a pity that unfortunately most of the times the flowers are drooping, so you can appreciate really the beauty only when you lift the flowers up, or in this case there's other plants that are around, so some of the flowers actually end up facing upwards. They are good for pollinators as well. They are some of the few plants in bloom in winter. And about the fragrance, I can't really smell any fragrance in this particular variety. Some Hellebores are fragrant, but it can be actually foul smelling or have a nice pleasant fragrance. However, this one doesn't have any fragrance, at least to my nose. This plant has been flowering in my garden for every year for the past 3 years, and I never smelled any scent, any fragrance. About the cultivation of this plant, the plants really like partial shade. I think is the best exposure. I think Too much sun, especially in summer, can actually scorch the leaves, and is not particularly good for the plant. However, I think partial shade to light shade is the best exposure. Plants in deep shade can grow, but might not bloom that much. So all the information I found, and in the conditions I'm actually cultivating this plant in my garden, is in basically partial shade. At the moment, the garden is in full light shade. It's winter. However, in the summer it receives morning sunlight where this Hellebore is. So it is this helps the Hellebore to build up energy and storage energy for the winter when this Hellebore blooms with its gorgeous flowers. About the soil, Hellebores are pretty adaptable to many different soils. My soil is clay in my garden. However, I mixed it with like a normal compost to improve the drainage. These plants really like moist conditions and ideally a good drainage. However, it's very important that the ground keeps moist most of the time, if not all the time. They really like fresh and cool conditions for their roots, I believe. And well, definitely, if you like a garden with winter flowers, I don't think Hellebores should miss in your garden, should like in your garden, because these are really some of the most beautiful winter blooming plants you can get for your garden, and are very, very easy to keep. Really, as I said, they need just well-drained, moist soil, and can grow in partial shade and light shade. And really, I don't think there's a lot of easier plants to keep in your garden. I hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, thank you very much for watching. I almost arrived at 400 subscribers, so I hope that many of you will subscribe to my channel if you didn't do it already, because in this way you are able to support my channel to grow and to make more videos about my garden, my allotment, and my plants that I hope that you like, as well as you like getting information about them. As usual, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time on my channel. Bye.